Hello, this is John Miares with the USDA NASS Great Lakes Regional Field Office in East Lansing, Michigan. In this video, I want to take a little time to review some of the key features from the Vegetable Chemical Use Survey's CAPI instrument that are going to be different from what you might have already seen in the ARMS Phase 2 instrument. If you have not had a chance to explore what this instrument has in store for it, you should take some time to open up CAPI training and at least enter one of the practice exercises so that you can be familiar with some of the quirks and twists that this particular instrument has in store for it. So I want to emphasize that I'm not going to go over every single screen in this CAPI instrument. I've already gone through and created a 40-minute video going over the ARMS Phase 2 CAPI instrument, and many of the features in that instrument are the same as what is here. So if you want a chance to take a look at that video to see how things are supposed to work there, I would strongly recommend doing that. Here, I'm just going to really focus on what is different between the ARMS 2 instrument and the VegChem instrument. Now, I do want to say that I am recording this on a laptop computer, partly because it'll look a lot cleaner than if I do the recording on an iPad, and partly because the system that I have will be much easier if I do this recording on the laptop. So, what I would recommend, again, in order to make sure you have enough space both on your iPad or even on the computer to enter and see all the columns of data that are necessary, is to click on this hamburger over here in order to get your screen as wide as possible and get as much real estate in front of you as you can. Just as with the ARMS Phase 2 survey, you're going to have this consent question at the beginning that has to be answered in order to be able to enter data. Again, this question is tied specifically to whether or not a respondent has given permission for us to contact a custom sprayer to be able to collect and enter information. However, even if there is no custom sprayer involved, then we still need to say yes on this if we want to enter data into the system. So I'm going to click yes, and we will continue. We'll enter our beginning time, military time, and then again, page 2 of the questionnaire sets up a little bit differently. Has there been a change in the operator? We'll say no. If we say yes, then it's going to open up the questions allowing us to determine who the new operator is going to be. Has the operation printed on the questionnaire been combined or merged with any other farming operations? If we say yes, then it's going to end up skipping to the end of the survey. But if we say no, then we can continue. Now, I'm using a Michigan form just because it has more target crops, and for some of the features that we're going to be working with here, that is going to be more advantageous for us. But the properties you're going to see here are going to be very similar no matter what state you're working with. So we will say, yes, they grew some of the crops. And for now, I'm going to just say that this was an individual operation because I don't want to have to deal with the partner screens right now. And here we are entering this information just as you would see on a regular quarterly ag survey. I'll just say they own 500, they rent 500, they're not renting anything out. They have 1,000 acres total, 950 acres is cropland, and we'll say 400 acres is to vegetables, target and non-target crops. From here, we're going to have this pick list that will allow us to pick which vegetables we're working with. Now, in Michigan, there are 5 possible vegetables here: asparagus, snap beans, cucumbers, pumpkins, and squash. In Ohio, it's pumpkins and bell peppers. In Indiana, it's pumpkins and watermelons. So we can specify here, I could say, let's say there's 80 acres of asparagus, there's 50 acres of snap beans, and we'll say there's 100 acres of pumpkins. Now, I want to point out a couple of features here. Number one, let's say I say there were no pesticides applied to any of these crops. If I say no, 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 and then go down to the bottom and skip to the next screen, what you're going to notice is it will still ask me how many pesticide applications have been made for each of the 5 crops. Now, according to this, I didn't even grow any cucumbers or any squash on this operation, but it's still going to ask me this. You will want to enter a number in here for these values, even if that number is 0. Now, let's say we just say, all right, I'm going to put in 0 for every application number. Go back and enter 0 in there. And if I hit next, then it will skip over the section D table and assume that you don't have any chemicals that are going to get applied. Now, if I want to make sure I have some things entered in here, I can change these numbers to what I want. I can say that I have 2 applications or to asparagus, I have 3 applications to pumpkins, and I have 1 application to snap beans. And it will open up 6 lines for me. Now, that is even though, if I back up a couple screens, you'll notice I put no, no, no here. There is no connection between what I enter on this screen here in terms of whether or not herbicides, insecticides, or fungicides were applied to that particular crop, and whether or not on this next screen I'll be asked how many chemicals were applied to each crop. Nor is there a check to say on the next screen that I couldn't possibly select cucumbers or squash here. So it's going to let me put anything